Yes, yes. Oh, so that's interesting that you're in that piece too. So if a person comes to you, I guess really what you're trying to do is lay out the land for them, what the possible options are through the process, trying to define their goals, and in the end, we obviously have the goal of them transitioning to either the next job, the next career, etc. So how often do you meet with them? How long are the sessions? Can you give me an idea
great
about
questions. So most people, if they're going through the career transition or the career reinvention process, as I mentioned, it's about a 3-month process.
Yes.
We meet 3 times a month for an hour.
Okay.
I start off with a 2-hour meeting, which is sort of a separate meeting,
Right.
and then we go into the monthly sessions, and they're 3 times a month for an hour.
Okay.
If somebody just comes to me and is just been laid off and they just want to go through the personal branding process, infuse all that personal branding material into their career marketing documents, it may be less than 3 months, it might only be 2. And I like to work 3 times a month. Some people want to do 4.
Okay.
Because they're really anxious to get a job. Everybody's different. I think the important thing is what does the client need, and then just help them get there. If it's 4 sessions or if it's 6 sessions, in this economy, I want to be helpful.
Right, right.
Some people are much better at job search than others, as you might imagine.
Yes.
So people who have a sales and a marketing background and really understand the importance of networking and getting out there have a much easier time.
Yes.
Than someone who has maybe an accounting background or an engineering background that's fairly introverted, that's not comfortable with networking.
Right, right. Now, what do you do about, I'm sure this is happening in this economy, especially with all the banks in trouble and so forth. You might have some key executive that's been let go or laid off, might even have a golden parachute or some money to finance, their career transition, but yet psychologically they're devastated, and maybe in the past they've used their cronies to get the next job. There's always been kind of, I don't know what you call that, but a rescue plan.
Right.
The old boys network would work really well where people would bring their team with them to the next position. And all of a sudden they don't have that. They don't have that as a resource. I know personally that I knew one gentleman that didn't even want to be at home. He just didn't want to face his wife, so he was hanging out at the gym all the time. Do you get individuals like that you have to almost coach as to how to cope with?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
and I think, the first thing I try to do is get people, if they're stuck at home, because that is a real issue, is
Right.
to get them out doing something physically, exercise, because the exercise is really helpful for their morale.
Right, okay.
I do try to get people, if they can, if they have the time, to do some type of volunteer work, because I think it's really important, especially if somebody is thinking about a reinvention at some point. So maybe they're a chief financial officer and they've been laid off and they're devastated. At some point, they'd like to go into fundraising or marketing.
Right.
I say to them, while you're looking, could you maybe spend 10 hours a week volunteering for some professional association, heading up their marketing committee? Because it'll give you something to do, it'll broaden your network, and if you're thinking about going into marketing anyways at some point, now you have something to put on your resume.
Right, right.
And so that's something that I try to do. And I try to get people into networking groups. I have a fair amount of clients, so I do hook people up together, which helps.
Yes.
I've, in the past, have run networking groups for my own just client base, where I have people come in for breakfast meetings.
Okay.
All my unemployed clients, and they introduce themselves to each other and do their little elevator pitch, and they network, so that's helpful. And I try to get them to go to things like Acton Networking Group, WIND, their like church or synagogue. Most churches and synagogues these days are running networking groups.
Yeah.
So just so that they're not in the house all the time, because that can be so hard.